The Chosen Season 6 BTS continues, and this week they have several hundred extras that are in Texas yet again. So we've had the big extra days in Utah already, which I was a part of, a few months ago. Then now they're having all these big extra days in Texas, and they've changed the set quite a bit for this one. It's very, very cool. But first things first, let's jump into this and talk about an update to Dallas's daughter. She got married last weekend, and so here's a little bit of that posted from Dallas here. We see her and her husband as they're taking some pictures, I assume after the ceremony, and getting into the reception here. And Dallas and her, of course, dancing, him and her walking down the aisle. Last few moments before handing her off. The lady's trying to help with the train of the dress, as always. So I'm sure it was a beautiful, beautiful day. This is the first of Dallas's kids to get married. Obviously, Sam is engaged at the moment. And so pretty soon he'll have 2 kids off and married. And so, yeah, on his way to that empty nest, I guess. Now we continue on into actual Season 6 BTS. We see here, this is Big James, Abe Bueno Jalad, and he says, the night shoots were quite brutal, but so much fun. We got some good stuff, Season 6. And so you can see here, Big James holding the sword that he got at the end of Season 5. And of course, we know what Peter is going to do with his sword, with Malchus, but we don't quite see what Big James is going to do, if anything, right? We've seen Big James be quite aggressive before, but he's never used a weapon on anybody quite yet. So we'll have to see how that pans out as well. As we know that Peter is he has his biblical moment that's coming up, but Big James doesn't really. So I assume we won't really see much from him, but we'll have to see. Moving on, we've got a little bit of the behind the scenes here of some of the apostles, as we see sort of Andrew and Thomas and Nathaniel kind of punch in for you guys here so you can see a little bit closer. These photos are not vertical as much as we normally have. So you've got Shahar there to the right, and then we've got John and some of the other ones that are standing off to the side. This is right outside of the Garden of Gethsemane, so very much like we saw at the end of Season 5. We're continuing there. Again, another close-up of some of the apostles here. Nothing quite insane or serious. Looks like they're having some conversation here as well. Now, we're going to jump back to Season 5 BTS. This was just released this last week, where we see Mark is now a part of the cast, and they're kind of saying thank you for what he did in Season 5 here. And so we see that.
Not the last we will see of him, of course, but let's welcome him and thank him for this week.
Again, this is from over a year ago, whenever they filmed for Mark.
Get my feet washed. This guy went through an American Ninja Warrior. All right, and then first you have to give your after you get your.
See you next. See you next. Congrats, man. Good to meet you. See you next time.
Good stuff, man.
No.
See you soon. Welcome. Trust me, the kids are being safe. I just have a moment here. It's important. Dude, it's great to meet you. Well done. Also, it's crazy. Freaking St. Mark is the guy who brings Christianity to Egypt. So like, he's a huge deal.
Luke giving him some lore there of the tradition of Mark, bringing the gospel to Egypt later on. Of course, him being a disciple of Peter, all that kind of stuff. So cool stuff.
See you, bro.
Happy wrap. Nice job, bro. Excellent. Fit in great job. Seamlessly, bro.
So that was the wrap of Mark there. Obviously, that was like a year ago, like we said. Here is day 61. And also, he mentions that What If is in theaters this past week. If you wanted to, you could have gone and seen What If on Tuesday or Thursday of this week in a lot of different areas throughout the U.S. and I don't know where else, but yeah, he was pushing that pretty hard, as obviously it was his movie that he did a while ago. He says that his kids say it's the best thing he's ever done, so he's really obviously proud of that. I think it was the 15-year anniversary of that movie, and so so they wanted to push it again. They brought it back out in theaters for that. But here's day 61. We're getting to the meat of it. Here, we're seeing a transformation of the faux Pernum or the Capernaum set. It is not like it was before. A lot of the things are moved. A lot of the different sets or buildings or different things are just in different areas, or there's new walls put up, new buildings put up, new sets put up so that people can, so that we can have a new look at what's going on here. This looks to be what some people call the praetorium, or some sort of courtyard that Pilate is kind of ruling from. This is where they shot for the majority of this week, it looks like. And so here's day 61.
All right, quiet, please. All right, pictures up, lock it out.
All right, let's go back through that because there are some really interesting things within that that I want to point out. Let me make this bigger for you guys so you can kind of catch what I'm putting down here. Of course, we got Adam Drake, the legend right there, the Brosen director himself. But let's go back here. Obviously, we see the whole area here looks a little bit different. There's a lot of Roman stuff kind of going on in this area. This house, I think looks familiar to me. This looks almost like Andrew's house, although I'm not 100% sure about that. I'm relatively sure that this is the house that is like right near the shoreline of Capernaum, that is right over there. And so very much a Capernaum house that we've seen before. Yeah, it's right inside this gate here, this is, I believe, the main gate into Capernaum here. And so, again, this is not how the set looked before. This has all been changed from what I understand. And so we're seeing people kind of come in from over there. Now, we see a bunch of the temple guard here. We also see a bunch of the religious leaders. Now, one key thing that we're going to see here in just a moment is this guy right here. We had spoken about him previously, because we weren't 100% sure who he was, but the consensus on that video, and now that I see his face in full, it's almost certainly that this is Rabbi Benjamin, who is from Nazareth. So back in season 3, episode 3, you remember whenever Jesus says, "I am the law of Moses," that whole situation there, that happens with Rabbi Benjamin, who is here. So he's coming back from Nazareth. Obviously, he would be in Jerusalem to celebrate Passover anyways, and now he's hooked up with Shmuel and Gadara, and over here Caiaphas, and so all of them are in league together here as they're getting into the persecution of Jesus, of course, as they continue on. So very, very cool that we get to see those different characters, and of course we get Shmuel over here, and this looks like a stand-in, most likely for Pilate, or this could be the servant that is leading into Pilate's room, I guess, because they're dressed the same. So, and he has sandals on. So this is probably the actual actor here who's playing the servant in this area, who's kind of blocking the door from that. So anyway, let's back out here and we'll continue on into the BTS. And then we get day 61 from a different perspective here. You see a lot of the set that you've seen before, whether that's the shop right here, which we've seen multiple times. You see a big statue over there of Caesar. This is kind of behind the scenes of what's happening over here. We're seeing behind the walls there and the gates, and here's some people that are standing off to the side as well, including Pilate himself, who is getting ready to go into the scene and to do a rehearsal, I think, at this time. But you see him right there. So, yeah. Now here is Amy Bailey showing us her alarm to wake up at 4:30. Not fun. We just heard from Barbara in the chat earlier. She is there right now in Texas, and she has a 5:45 wake up call tomorrow. So not fun, or actually set call time. So she's gonna have to be awake much before then. Not my time of day to be awake. That is for sure. But here's her drive in. You can see those large buildings. This is where all the different stuff is housed for the Chosen, where they have all the different lunchrooms and everything else are housed in these buildings. And the larger ones that have the blue tops are the sound stages, which are very cool. Now here you get a better picture of the praetorium. And again, we're going to see this a lot throughout this week. So don't worry that you're not getting the best picture of it right now, but you can see there's a throne in the middle. There's a balcony up here to the left. And then this is the door in which everybody was standing before with all the religious leaders and everybody else. They were kind of demanding kind of to get in that area there. But we see obviously the big throne over here. this is where Pilate essentially is going to make the big decree, right? That Jesus is going to be the one to be punished and all of that kind of stuff there. So yeah. Now here we see Mitch. This is of course from the Bros, and so they're messing with Mitch here. They're saying Mitch Hudson working, quote unquote. And we've got Mitch there on his phone, probably writing, the next season of Promised Land, probably, doing a lot of important things, to be honest, but who knows? Now, here, I wanted to point this out. We're adding in some other things outside of the Chosen realm for this BTS, because there's some interesting things that I wanted to talk about outside of just the Chosen. Here, we've got a new project that has some interesting actors in it from Wonder Project, which of course is the makers of House of David. This week, they announced that they are, a few weeks ago, they announced they're going to do a project called Young Washington. We're not going to follow that project. I just thought it was interesting that we have Ben Kingsley, Andy Serkis, and Joel Smallbone. Those are some really big names for this movie. So I wonder how it'll all go. It'll be really, really interesting. But that's a combination between Angel Studios and Wonder Project, which is really, really interesting to see that, how it's coming together. Like I said, we won't follow it on this channel just because it's not a biblical project. So yeah. But here we've got some of the social media guys from the Promised Land who are here. We got Juan, who's a friend of mine, and he's pretty awesome. But we got him with Mitch and some of the other people on set, as well as Darby. I know Darby as well, this guy right here. Good to see Darby. Yeah, he's a visual effects artist, or a CGI artist, basically. And then we got some people over here showing a little bit of the set above as well. Nothing too crazy here. And continuing on, we've got a little bit behind the scenes of the Romans here. And then Adam, who is right now just working. It says Adam, however, is actually working, unlike Mitch before. And then here we've got Adam, and it says, never mind, he sat down.
I feel like, hey.
Now here we've got Mitch with a mic on. We got a little bit of this scene again of all the Pharisees kind of standing in that doorway. And we get a similar kind of servant here as well, getting ready to be in this scene like we saw before. And so, yeah, it's hard to say exactly how these scenes are going to play out. But of course, what we do know is that these people are going to gather. They're going to put Jesus on trial, and then they're going to choose Barabbas over Jesus. And so that is basically the shot that we're seeing filmed here.
I don't know if this thing's on.
I hope not.
Press the button.
I doubt it.
Oh, you got green lights. Do I have green lights?
So we saw Shimon there as well. We heard Adam and Mitch basically just bantering back and forth about how they hope the mic's not on, but obviously it was. Now here, a little bit of an aside. We had some students, it looks like, coming in to see how the Chosen did things, different future professionals from these different areas. And this is the hair and makeup people, basically. Now here's day 62. First things first, we get a little bit of a look into Kaufney over here. This is a rehearsal early in the morning as they're getting things ready. And so we've got Kaufney over here, as well as what looks to be one of the guys that's normally with him, I think, over here. Again, I'll punch in so you guys can see that. This to me looks like the synagogue area, actually. Now that I'm looking at it from this angle, I'm pretty sure that's Kaufney right there, and then one of the followers from Teldor as well. Yeah, this might be the synagogue area, and they've like redone the entire synagogue. That makes actually a lot of sense. Yeah, I'm trying to look at it now and see where this is located in the set. But again, you're getting a better set look at the scroll here. I'm going to rewind this in a second. I'll let you watch all the way through because we get some dialogue here as well. We can continue. We've got Caiaphas there in some very Pharisaical garb. Just kidding, of course. He's in a Chosen hoodie, which I think is hilarious. And then we have Claudia as well as Pilate up on the balcony up there as well. And then we'll let it play through all the way as we look at this again. So we got Claudia and Pilate up there along with Akis, who of course is the cinematographer, making sure he got the shots for all the different things there. Let me back this up and we'll listen to it all the way through, and I'll put the volume up as well.
shall not find him guilty of any of your charges against him. So, any of your charges against him, and unless you're going to claim that Jesus stole his clothes.
Okay, so we hear something about any of the charges against him, which means basically Pilate is not really accepting any of the charges against Jesus, in particular when it comes to Caiaphas' charges that he's bringing, right? But then he says, unless you're going to insinuate that he stole his clothes, which this comes back to what we've talked about before, that Herod Antipas, actually gives Jesus his outer robe that he's wearing. We don't know if he gives him anything else to wear, but we've seen Jesus all throughout the behind the scenes so far, even on when going to the cross, he is wearing this purple robe to insinuate that he is the king of the Jews, right? And so we see that Herod actually gives that to him in a previous scene, and then here he's in front of Pilate, and now he's wearing that robe again. We're going to see more evidence of that in a little bit, but here is some more behind the scenes, and you can see the water over there. We're pretty close to the water, and basically to the right over here, this is where Tent City was before, at least I think. I don't think there's another body of water over here. I think this is basically the Sea of Galilee, what we would see as the Sea of Galilee throughout this whole section, throughout the whole show so far. For most of it, not the whole show. There's some other Seas of Galilees that they've used in the past, but for the last several seasons, they've used this as the Sea of Galilee. But over here would be Tent City, over to the right over here, and then this is into the main area of Capernaum, basically where we're seeing all this stuff be put. But it's just a lot different because they've changed a lot of it to be the Roman section of Jerusalem instead of anything to do with Capernaum anymore. So over here, you see all these people being set up, a lot of these extras being put into place, and you see how it's all kind of made here. I do think that this is the original, main entrance into Capernaum. Is that right? It's so hard for me to wrap my mind around where they are currently, unless this is just a brand new set that's somewhere else, but I don't think so. So you can see that one more time. You can see all the people set up there. This is basically from Pilate's balcony that we're looking over here. Is this a brand new set? I don't think so. I think it's encapsulating some of the older buildings, like right here. Like this, I think, is an older building that's being covered up by Roman stuff, basically. Like this is a building that was part of the original set before, but now is a Roman building instead. Same thing with this. I think this was part of the original buildings that were there before as well, but now it's just a part of this section of this area. Yeah. It's really hard to say without being there in person and without seeing more of the area here. We get a moment here with Dallas as he is with these people in this room. And again, this is so hard to tell. This looks like this is the synagogue, but redone. Doesn't it? It looks like it to me, for sure. This is definitely obviously more Roman. They obviously have some idols and some different things in here that wouldn't be in the synagogue. It's not the synagogue anymore, but it definitely has that look to it. Like it's a similar room. One of the reasons I say that as well is because it's the only room down there near the Capernaum area that has air conditioning. And so that's where they put a lot of the people. Took a quick break from filming, during filming to connect with our incredible international teams. And so, they get to talk with all the international teams. They do this normally once a year, once a season, where they'll bring in all the international teams. I was actually there for this last year, but this year I went to Utah instead, and so a little bit different there. But I can't really tell, man. I can't tell. It's so hard to say. Again, we've got the hair guy here trying to blend in with the foliage while Andrew James Allen is giving a performance. And so we see that there. And then here we've got a little bit better a better look at the kind of balcony here that Pilate was on. We see a couple of different thrones that are here, and then some idols, of course, some eagles to represent Rome. And then he's looking over the balcony into the courtyard, which is to the right here. You can see kind of behind the scenes. You can see they're obviously not going to shoot in this direction. at least not without any CGI, as you see the set kind of behind here. That's all made up there. All right. Continuing on, we've got a little bit behind the scenes look at some of the actors. Normally during this time, they're doing a lot of different interviews with all the international people, as well as different news organizations and things like that. And so we have that there. And again, another couple people that are doing interviews and different things there. Now here we've got Parus. This is only day 10 for Parus, even though it's 60 plus days into filming. He really hasn't been here very much. Now he's going to most likely be here throughout the remainder of the days, basically, to film. But that means that he is in less than half of the days of filming, which is pretty insane, right? However, this does encapsulate as well the feature-length movie, which is going to come out in 2027. And so there's a lot of stuff, like he's not going to be in that movie basically at all. Like, I'm sure that he will a little bit for certain points of it, but I think the majority, there's not going to be a ton of the other apostles that aren't really doing anything during this time. I think there's going to be very sparingly these apostles, and then it's going to focus on John, for example, maybe some of the others that have pivotal moments there, because it's going to be the last 2 episodes, quote unquote, of the season, but it's going to be a feature-length movie, so it's going to feel a little bit different than just 2 episodes, right? And it's going to be longer as well. But anyway, we've got Parus here, and someone around him saying, tomorrow I know nothing, and he says, same.
Tomorrow, I know nothing, but my guess would be tomorrow.
Parus is so different, someone says. Yeah, than Matthew, for sure. I think Luke Dimian is very similar, where his character is so much different than how he acts in real life, which is, the sign of a good actor, for sure. Here we've got, of course, the Draconator himself, who is on set, just getting everything ready here.
Going
And then here we've got another early morning with Amy Bailey.
to work in the dark. Going to work in the dark. It's not hard at all. I love waking up at 4:30 a.m.
Yeah, not fun. Not fun. That would be my song as well, for sure. Trying to pump myself up for the day. Absolutely. Here she says, why, yes, I do travel to set with my own whipping cream, French press, and porcelain coffee cup. Thanks for asking. Now I'll zoom in on this. This is what the actors always get here, are these different kind of costume sets that go along with their characters. This is in case they forget like where a specific piece of jewelry goes or whatever else. Of course, they've got people to double check and all that kind of stuff. There's her heavy whipping cream and her porcelain cup and her press there. But here you can see a little bit of how that works for how the characters are dressed here on set. They have these little models for them to go by of themselves when they previously had the thing there. Sorry if that was a bit loud. My bad. Here we've got Eden Lada Silva, who we haven't really seen too much this season. We've seen her in a couple of different moments. We saw her a lot at the crucifixion, which is going to be cool to see her there as well. I think we did, right? Yeah, I'm almost positive we saw her a bunch there. Almost all the women are there. So I think Eden, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Tamar, Salome, the Mary and Martha from Bethany, even Claudia. All of those women are all there. Plus Simon of Cyrene and his son, which is very cool. But here it's good to see Eden again back on set. A lot of fun when she's on the show. I love her character. I think she does so much for Simon Peter and helps throughout that whole thing there. But glad she's there. Again, we've got Amber here who plays Tamar. She says, Concho was giving me the cold shoulder yesterday. I guess that's the horse's name here. He was all smiles a few months ago. Love is fickle. So here he is at a different time when they were filming before. Here we get a little bit more of a close-up of what we're looking at here in terms of Jesus. So we get our first look at Jonathan here in this scene. This is before the scourging and things like that, and so I don't think that we'll see that quite yet. You can see he's pretty, well taken care of. There's not a lot of blood or wounding or anything like that. He's a little bit dirty, but he's just been arrested the night before. And so this is before the scourging and all that kind of stuff. So here's Jesus with the robe on. This is the robe that I was talking about earlier from Herod Antipas. And so you can see this on the outer side of him here. Looks like his hands are probably going to be bound here by something, either chains or ropes or something, as he's been arrested here. We also see Pilate behind him and Atticus behind him, right there with all the soldiers. I can't tell if this person right here is some sort of servant or if it's a stand-in for Jonathan. I think that's who he might be, is a stand-in for Jonathan, but I'm not 100% sure. And so we have obviously the Romans and Pilate and everybody here as they're getting ready to, basically condemn Jesus. And so we'll see more of that as we go throughout this week. But let's continue on here. We got some more Roman soldiers, a bunch of people in the back here. This is outside of the original city of Capernaum. On the outside here. So this is, I think it's a little bit different than what we've seen before when it comes to these walls back here.
Yeah, around in there. Just we're not all in the same spot. Yeah.
Okay, I'm beginning to put it together. I think this is. Let me go back. Sorry. Okay, so I think this is the original entrance to Capernaum before. But they've covered it up with a bunch of Roman stuff that is new here, basically to make it look, different. This is the tax booth that we saw. For example, this area that we're looking at right here, I believe, is the area where we see in season 4, episode 4, episode 4, whenever Jesus yells at Big James and John for asking to sit on his left and right. I believe that's where this scene happens right here. And he says, okay, we're going to go off to Jerusalem. You guys go. I'll catch up with you, basically. I think that's exactly where this scene happens here. Then they've built new walls on the outside of the city around this house, which is right in front of the Sea of Galilee. So I was right about that. And then they've built this brand new wall that goes across that was not here before. Before, when you stood here, you would just look at the Sea of Galilee, the lake that's right there. And then here is the house that is either Andrew's house or it is right next to Andrew's house that is there. I think that might be Andrew's house. And they've either changed it a little bit or added some things to it. Obviously, they added a stable on the side here. But I think this is Andrew's house here. Now, within the scene, obviously, you can see a bunch of different extras that are here as well. And you see a lot of the different Roman decor as well as the temple guard that are here. Another shot at who I think is Rabbi Benjamin right there. And again, I'll make this big so you guys can see. Bring this down here. Looks like we've got, is that Jairus? I can't tell. I don't think so. I don't think Jairus would be there, but it's possible. Then we've got a bunch of different Pharisees in the back here, and then a bunch in the front here as well. A bunch of the ones we've seen before. And of course, we've got Caiaphas as well as Shmuel, and then a bunch of extras that are all standing by. Very cool. Is that Ravi? I think that might be Ravi from Nazareth. What do you guys think about that? Is that Ravi and Dinah here? What do you guys think about that? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But we've got Shmuel, we've got Caiaphas, a bunch of our normal extras that we normally see in the show right in front there. Yeah. And we'll go back over here just see a little bit. We've got Jesus, Pilate, and some Romans. Nothing crazy here. Nothing too crazy. Big old cranes and different things. You can see all those extras coming in the door over here as well. Yeah. Super interesting. All right, let's continue on. We got the big old crane here for more of a wide shot. This is something they've been doing more and more within The Chosen. The Chosen didn't often give us like these massive wide shots before, not super often at least, but they've been doing more and more of it. And so, yeah. Here we've got Joanna talking about how hot it is. Amy Bailey. There's just a fire sound effect under this that I took out for this. But obviously very, very hot, standing there with a bunch of the extras. And then here she shows that it's 120 degrees, which is nutty. Not fun. This definitely brings me back to Feeding the 5,000. We were there, me and Vanessa were out there for 3 days for the Feeding the 5,000, and that was rough. I was like 10 shades blacker than I am. It was really hot, and there was nowhere to hide because you're just out in the middle of a field, right? That was very, very, very hot. But here is Amy Bailey's message to all of the background actors.
This is a shout out thank you to all of the incredible background artists on The Chosen who have shown up. They have flown in from all over the world to be with us. 600 of you have shown up to come shoot this very, very emotionally charged and difficult scene that I think it's going to take us 4 or 5 days to shoot, just this one scene, and we're all standing in the direct Texas sun. It's exhausting. It's standing for hours and hours, and I know we, the actors, are just melting and tired, and so if we are, we know you are, because you guys are really, really doing more than we are. You're standing there for even longer. So we love and appreciate you so much. Everyone I spoke to a lovely gal. She's 75, and you know, any complaints that I might have had of like, I'm so hot, or I'm so tired, or I have a headache, or whatever. And I looked into her eyes, and she was like, I'm so happy to be here. This is what a joyous time. And I was like,
this is so for real, for sure. Every time I'm on set, anytime I think about complaining, I'm like, I'm out here with like, you know, with grandparents and people who definitely don't need to be here, but they want to be here, right? I have the exact same thoughts of like, I can't complain. Like, this is awesome. You know, it's an awesome experience. Even though it's hot, even though it's hard, like, you know, it's always a humbling experience for sure.
wow. So you keep moving us cast members into deep gratitude, and thankful that we have work, thankful that we're on this beautiful show, and thankful for your energy that you're bringing to us. I know it's hard, but we appreciate you so much. So see you tomorrow for more.
And so there's that. We've got Amber, who plays Tamar. Her dad was there apparently as an extra on set, which is very cool. How cute was my dad as an extra today? So proud of how he braved the heat. I'm sure he was very proud of her as well and everything that she's accomplished. Absolutely. Here we've got Nina Leon, who of course plays Mary Salome, showing that she's on set. We don't really see her too much in the behind the scenes, but we see her in Texas here as she is, chilling at her little bungalow over there. Now here we're going to take a little bit of departure again and talk about the Chosen Adventures. This is quite interesting. So people are starting to stalk the Chosen Adventures now, and we get a couple of little leaks here normally that happen around this time. First things first, we get a release date for what looks like the Chosen Adventures, which will be on October 28th, 2025. That's at least whenever the DVD will be available here at this store, which is christianbook.com. And so we see that there. Of course, this is Chosen Adventures Season 1, coming from the Chosen LLC, and this is specifically a DVD here that we see at the top. Now, it's going to be on immediate sale, apparently, from $20 to $15 for the DVD, which is pretty cool. But this is a pre-order of the Chosen Adventures, which you can pre-order right now. I assume whenever the pre-order is done, it'll go back up to the $20 for the DVD set. But what do you get with that? Let's go to the next page. You can see a little bit more of the description here as we look to it. And we see The Chosen Adventures is an animated adventure comedy. Let me make this bigger for you guys so you can see. Here we go. Beep, 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 beep. Here we go. The Chosen Adventures is an animated adventure comedy series that follows 9-year-old Abby and best friend Joshua as they navigate life in the ancient city of Capernaum. When the children encounter a wise craftsman and teacher, Jesus of Nazareth, he helps them change the way they see the world, and they help spread his influence far and wide among the 5 to 8 years old set. And did we mention that she has a talking sheep? So we've seen some of this already. Here's the format. Each Each episode of The Chosen Adventures is 11 minutes long. The first season is a total of 14 episodes. So a little bit of a leak there as we can see how this is going to work and where this is coming from here. And again, publication date is 2025. We know that's going to be in October, at least for the DVD. We'll see what else happens with this. We don't know where this is going to be showing. And, you know, part of that may have to do with a big piece of news that we got this week, which is to do with the David movie and with Angel Studios and some different things there. Definitely check out the channel if you want to learn more about that. But yeah, this is really, really interesting. Really cool that we get a little bit of a release date here of October 28th. And then also we see that the DVD is going to be about $20. It's going to be 14 episodes for the first season, which I think is great for a kid's show. You need to do more than 8 episodes of a kid's show, right? They're not going to be as long, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, really, really cool here. Yeah, make sure I got that date right. Yeah, October 28th right there. So you can pre-order that if you want. I'm sure it's on several different sites at the moment. And I'm sure they'll announce it soon too. If it's going to come out in October, I would assume they're going to announce it, you know, either this month or next month. And then it'll be available then. So yeah, really, really interesting. We should be expecting probably a Chosen live stream then soon in order to announce that, which would be pretty cool. So we'll see how that goes. Here we've got another little piece from Amy Bailey. What's that you say? My wonderful background artist ready to stand in the sun again with me today. So she's putting a little meme of herself there. And again, some behind the scenes with not only Amy Bailey, but also Veronica, who we know is here.
Well, speak of the angel, not the devil. I've been given a very authentic first century hat.
You said that's better on you than me.
You ready for this? What do you think it's going to be? 110? 111 Fahrenheit? What are we going for?
I'm going to pray for 90.
Mama, we're praying for 90 degrees today.
Farmer's wife.
So they're walking right now, if you know the set well, they're walking from the synagogue area out to the front where we see that new set that was built that we just determined was in the front of Capernaum. So they're walking from the air-conditioned area to the front now over here.
It's only, is it that way? Where are we?
I don't know. Where are we?
That way. There's a...
Where are we?
Now, here's some behind the scenes. Amy says, our sisters bring the chuckles much needed in between takes when the material we are shooting is so hard. And of course, this is Jelaine, as well as the sisters from Bethany here doing a little bit of an interview. They've been holding back a lot of the content from the behind the scenes this year. Normally, whenever I'm doing my behind the scenes content like this, they're normally 2-3 weeks behind, somewhere in there. This year, they haven't put out basically anything except for little snippets here and there. They did the first week of like, hey, we're back to filming. But beyond that, they haven't done their weekly BTS, which is interesting. Also, it's kind of good because it gives us more content to go into later, and we'll get to deep dive even deeper into these weeks as they show us them. So hopefully we'll get that behind the scenes content from Jelaine and Chris coming up soon, which will be really, really cool to see, getting us ready for basically the year-long wait that we have until season 6 releases, and then a year and a half until we get the final movie there, the crucifixion movie. So the wait begins. All right, continuing on, we've got Parus with some pickle juice here.
It's pickle juice.
Pickle juice is a normal thing to kind of wake you up if you don't want to drink coffee. So that's what they've been using over the nighttime shoots specifically to stay awake, is all the pickle juice. But then he says this is day 11 Matthew days in the heat with 600 rock star extras. And so that's who's here with them here. Again, this is inside what I believe to be the old synagogue, but is now some sort of office for Pilate. I don't think this is on the soundstage, but it could be. It could be. I'm not 100% sure about that. So this is the international team as they're chanting Parus' name here. We see some of the behind the scenes people here as well. Most of the most of the international team is dressed up in first century garb, so they're probably in these scenes as well, which will be fun to see them there, which is pretty cool. Parus again there. And then we've got a big look at the international team as they're all dressed up here. They're from all over the place, literally all over the world. They're like the Christian Jelaines of the rest of the world outside of the U.S. So now here we've got a look at this big B cam, which is on the techno crane, like we saw earlier. Again, getting those big sweeping shots. Like we said last week, there's a lot of money on this crane. The crane itself is incredibly expensive, but the camera as well is, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars most likely is what you're looking at right here. Lots of money. Here's Dallas. He says, now this is awesome, courtesy of Ron Kent. Very cool. Double guitar here. Looks like a 12-string and a 6-string guitar put together, which is very, very cool. I don't know how you would play that, but it's cool. And then it says look up at the top of the head of the guitar there, which is very cool. Of course, the fish at the bottom with the fish swimming the opposite direction. Is this the same number of fish? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13. So they included Judas. How nice. Now here is day 64. We get a pretty good look at the crucify him moment. And so this is the people chanting toward Pilate to crucify Jesus. And we'll look at that one more time. You can pretty clearly see, I think that is Rafi, who is in the back there. You can kind of see him right here. I think this is Rafi, and Rafi is going to chant crucify him, which is nutty to think about that. Remember, Rafi is a childhood, person that Jesus grew up around. And so it's really crazy to see that Rafi even would be against Jesus here. We know that he was against him in Nazareth, but to see that continuation is pretty crazy. But let's back up here and we'll look at that again. Again, we can see some of the Romans that are moving down as they're not really showing us Pilate here, but I would assume that we're seeing both Jesus and Barabbas up here on the podium itself next to Pilate up here somewhere. Of course, we've got Gadara and we've got Zebediah and we have Caiaphas and Shmuel that are all down here. And so, kind of all of our big characters that are here. We don't see any of the apostles or anything nearby at the moment. We would expect to maybe see like John or some of the others here, but not a lot of them. A lot of them are going to be scattered to the wind at this point, terrified and scared, dealing with that. So you can see again, Adam having some something. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe some ice. I don't know, ice cream or something there. Here we go. Let me zoom out again. Yeah, we've got someone passing out what looks like some ice cream or something on the very, very hot day that it is. And then all of the Pharisees over there in the corner, all hiding under the shade. Everybody trying to find some shade, of course. We've got Caiaphas right in the foreground.
And then,
And looking over, trying to scan real quick. See if I recognize anybody. It's mostly Mitch talking to background and probably giving them their like what they should be doing essentially. And then of course the Sam Jenkins.
Oh my gosh, it's Mitch. It's Mitch Hudson. I'm not 39.
Adam's 39 years old. Adam's 39 years old.
39.
Confirmed.
39.
He's
Look at all that background.
He's not even today. For a while, he's been this way.
He's been 39 since season 1 of the show.
39.
But I look 25. That's what matters.
That's true.
How old is Adam Drake? What do you think? Put it in the comments down below. I talked about this earlier, but in a few months, you're going to see another episode with me and the Brosen. Love those guys. It's been a bunch of fun. Definitely always fun hanging out with them. So another podcast coming out with them soon.
What did you say?
Oh, hey guys.
How are you?
90% of his body is neck.
So stupid, dude. 90% of his body is neck. Here's a close up to a bunch of the crew, most of which, we don't get to see very often. So here's a close up of them. Of course, we've got Alan, who is one of the camera operators. We've got Akis, who's a cinematographer. A bunch of different people in here, including Sam Jenkins. I think that's pretty much all you guys would know for the most part. But employee of the week over here is Jeff. So that's great. But a bunch of people here in this frame, a bunch of the crew that we don't really get to see too much behind the scenes, which is awesome. Then here we get another confirmation of Jaleh, who is playing Veronica, and she is on set here in Texas. She says, "What a week! Grateful for so much, but mostly for all the people not pictured here who made this smile possible. Crew and cast, including you background artists, aka superheroes. Love you guys. Now to the invisible jet," because she's wearing a Wonder Woman shirt. She's also a part of the MCU, I think, technically now, because she was in Ironheart, I think, on Disney Plus. So kind of cool stuff there. Now here we get a very close up of Pilate's throne, where he's making the judgment from here. And if I zoom in, you can see a lot of the inscriptions, a lot of different things. Of course, we got this insignia of Rome with the eagles behind. This almost looks like, right here, this almost looks like Lady Justice, but of course that's not a thing yet in this time period. And so we've got some different things over here, including some snacks for him, probably an amphoray of wine here, or a bottle of wine, however you want to say that. And then we've got some braziers behind him where fire could be lit here. So you can imagine Jesus is going to be on his right or left, and then Barabbas will be on the other side, and they'll probably have to choose who they want to have here, which of course we know that they choose Barabbas to be free and Jesus to be crucified, which is how it is. Now, I wanted to mention this because I just thought it was interesting, and it's kind of my thing to talk about things like this, so I'm going to talk about it. It's not too important to this week, but I did want to mention it here. I just left the sound for the very beginning of this because if I let it go all the way through, I'm going to get copyrighted. So it's this song right here that's a trend right now called "You Have Any Kids," basically. You have any kids? You have any kids? Yes, I have one daughter. It's basically like a meme, essentially, that's like you're saying something or someone asks you a question and you answer it with a very specific response, but then the person who asked the question to begin with didn't really understand what you said and they're kind of confused about it, right? And so here's her version of this meme that's kind of going on right now. And we see, is Tamar in the Bible? And the answer is no, but she does represent the countless unnamed women Jesus uplifted. Okay. And then it goes back to this other person. So she's extra biblical and unnecessary. This is some people's response to Tamar. We're going to get into my opinion in a second. And then we go back and she's like, huh? What are you talking about? Well, it's a historical drama, not a documentary. So she's basically saying like things aren't going to be exactly the same. And things could be added basically to the story, which of course The Chosen does all the time. Then back to the person who's asking the question. They say, I mean, yeah, but clearly she's just there to check a diversity box, which is kind of crazy to me when it comes to The Chosen, because The Chosen's really diverse. I don't think that she's there to check a diversity box necessarily. And I don't think anybody really thinks that. I don't think I've ever heard that criticism of The Chosen in the 5 years that I've been deep diving into it. Which is, it's interesting that would be the criticism here, but continuing on. And then again, the person answers, she represents the unnamed women left out of the text, but not the story. So they're in the story, but they're not in the text, is essentially how she's saying it here. And then the person still doesn't understand. And then they say, I'm just saying the Bible doesn't need any made up stories. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. That is, I would say, a common criticism of the show, that they're adding things to scripture, which isn't necessarily true. I don't think that's true. But that is a criticism that she's bringing here. And then the person says, it's hard to read here, but it's a TV show and half the characters are extra biblical. Why is Tamar a problem? So I don't know if she gets this a lot. I have never heard this criticism of like Tamar specifically is the problem. It's interesting. I have never, ever heard that criticism from any of the chosen core or people outside the chosen core. On any of my videos ever, I've never gotten the criticism that Tamar specifically is the problem, but someone like Barnaby is not, right? It's always a blanket statement of like, yes, anything extra biblical is unnecessary or needs to be taken out, which I don't believe either. I have a different issue with this, which we're going to get into in a second. And then that's the end of it there. So what is the issue with Tamar? The issue with Tamar for me is that she's very not probable within the story. So Tamar is great. I think she's a great addition to the story. Season 1, episode 6, when she comes in and she has the faith that's beautiful, right? It's a really beautiful moment. However, I do think that it's very strange that Tamar is a Gentile specifically. I think this is something that wasn't, I hate saying this because I know that it was thought all the way through, but it feels like it wasn't because obviously at the very beginning, season 1, they did not think that Tamar was going to be a recurring character. They thought in season 1, episode 6, she was going to have one episode. She was going to be a day player is what it's called. And then she would be done with the entire show. And then she would never return again. Okay. Season 2, they decided to bring her back at the end of the season in episode 7 and 8. Then she's a permanent character basically throughout since season 3. Okay. But the storyline with Tamar is interesting. I love having these other women that are there. Why don't we have Susanna? I would like to have Susanna. I would love to have Susanna, Joanna, and Mary Magdalene. Those are kind of the 3 main women that we hear about within Scripture. However, we don't have Susanna, but we have Tamar instead. But the issue for me with Tamar is that it's very, 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 very unlikely. Like, I would say borderline impossible that there would be a Gentile woman that would be following Jesus through his ministry. Because culturally and historically, this would have prevented a lot of different things. Jesus's main way that he ministered, especially in the early years of his ministry, was going to synagogues and speaking within those synagogues. If he had a woman in his posse who followed him around that was a Gentile, he wouldn't be allowed to do that. Like, unless she made a direct conversion to Judaism, which she doesn't do in the show. She's very clear throughout the entire show that she is a Gentile. Even in season 5, she talks to the Greeks and says, I'm a Gentile, right? And so that is a pretty big thing. It would be almost impossible culturally and historically for Jesus to have a Gentile woman within his posse of people. It just would, because Jesus even says himself, first to the Jew, then to the Greek, right? And so the way that Tamar is in the story, I think it's very unlikely. It's very, very improbable. But do I have a real issue with it? No, not at all, right? For the storyline itself, for the TV show itself, don't have a problem with it. For the biblical accuracy, it definitely brings down the points of biblical accuracy because it just is not probable. It's not likely in any way that that Tamar would be a part of the Jesus followers at this point. Remember, the first Gentile that was ever converted to Christianity, that the Spirit came to, and there was like a second Pentecost, right, is Cornelius, who was in Caesarea Maritima, okay? So that's who we should be looking towards whenever the Gentiles really come into the picture. Now, of course, there was other people that came to Jesus, but none of them followed him on a day-to-day basis. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. But yeah, as far as we know, Tamar was not a convert. She was a Gentile throughout the entire thing. And so it's very strange. Someone's asking, what about Joanna? Joanna is Jewish. That's one thing the show does not do a very good job of showing us. She's a Hellenistic Jew. Her husband worked on the court of Herod Antipas, which is a Hellenized Jew, essentially, but she is not Roman. Within the show, she should be Jewish as well. It's just not really ever mentioned in that way, which is quite interesting. Joanna definitely would have been a Hellenized Jew, like as part of Herod Antipas's court. Yeah, so all those people, Joanna, Mary Magdalene, Susanna, Mother Mary, of course, Mary Salome, all those ladies, every lady that you know from the Gospels that is part of Jesus's group, they are all Jewish. Yeah, they're all Jewish. So anyway, let's keep on going. We got Parus here, day 12. Don't worry, I filmed about for 20 minutes, so he was only there for a little bit on day 12, not very long. And then we get this little bit of a sneak peek of a scene from season 6, which is very, very cool. Let's jump into this.
Say, blessed are the meek. I wouldn't make it too much of a screed. It shouldn't be too aggressive. It's more of like a, please do what I'm doing. Please try this.
Camera set and action.
It might be counterintuitive, but I ask, how will your effort going towards arriving at an intuitive conclusion? Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
Super interesting scene here. This is, of course, right outside of the Garden of Gethsemane. And so we've got Matthew that's looking towards the apostles, and they're all freaking out at this time, right? This is right after Jesus is arrested. And we see that probably some of them take off. I know that John and Peter probably follow Jesus as he's being arrested, but the rest of them are kind of standing here asking what to do. And so here Matthew actually takes the lead, which is something we really have not seen him do before. And he even calls out the rest of them and reminds them, blessed are the meek, right? For they shall inherit the earth. And so, yeah, really cool moment here. Let's look at that one more time. Again, he's kind of calling out the apostles here. We can hear some of Dallas's direction if we go forward a bit as well.
Blessed are the meek. I wouldn't make it too much of a screed. It shouldn't be too aggressive. It's more of like a, please do what I'm doing. Please try this.
Camera set and action.
It might be counterintuitive, but I ask, how will your effort going towards arriving at an intuitive conclusion? Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
Yeah, that's a great Matthew moment for sure. And here we've got Jonathan on set, of course, looking very sweaty and very hot Texas day, of course. And he says, the wait continues. And of course, he's through the crucifixion portion of filming, but of course, the wait is still there for sure throughout this whole entire season and what is to come. They've got about 20 more days of filming, but here we are with that there. Now, here, really quickly, just a little bit of a plug. We don't have these yet, but for those that stuck around to the end of the video or that are here live with me, wanted to show you some looks at some new pieces of apparel that we're working on behind the scenes that are almost ready to go live. We're going to probably go put these out in a few weeks, would be my guess. But here is the first one. This is the same design in a few different colors here. The front, we're calling this the Promises series, okay? And so on the front is a promise of God. So on this one specifically says, I am chosen. And then on the back, it's got a verse, and I'll let that kind of stay a secret for now. If you can read it, then you can read it there. But on the back of this one, it has an oil lamp, just like I have on my desk right here, which I'll show you in a second. It has a broken oil lamp, which is still lit because God can still use us even if we're broken, right? And so this is one of the 5 shirts that we're going to be releasing soon. You can see the different colors here. And so this is just a little bit of a sneak peek for you guys that have been sticking around and watching through the end of the video. Appreciate that a ton. And look out for that drop in just a little bit. And I'm sure we'll get back to that. But yeah, really, really cool shirts. Here's the oil lamp I was talking about. Really beautiful. There it is. Straight from Israel. But thank you guys for watching this one. Let me know your thoughts about the season 6 BTS behind the scenes. What do you think about Chosen Adventures? What do you think about all the stuff that we saw here with the Crucify Him scene that they were shooting? Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff and more to come for sure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And of course, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.